What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of AJ Porter Golf. This week we had a friend of mine, Bret Kelly, on. Bret has experience with the United States Olympic ski team, and he also has experience in the MLB. This was a very different episode because he doesn't have a ton of golf experience, but what he does have is experience of performing at the highest level. So one of the biggest takeaways that I had from this discussion was his concept of everybody kind of just starts at a different place, and maybe the further back or further up you start determines kind of the amount of details that you need to pay attention to. We can all think of instances of an athlete. DK Metcalf comes to mind, where he's just an absolute unit. And he talks about how he eats sugar and candy. Same with like Chad Ochocinco, right? We always hear about these guys that are just genetic freaks. Well, this podcast, in this episode, really, next series of them, honestly, are for those people who aren't those genetic freaks and still want to get the same level of results. So we're diving into things in this episode. I mentioned it last time with James Colin Davis and all my other guests, of the topic of 180 ball speed. With Bret, we kind of talked into the building blocks of strength and development, which I think will be helpful for everyone out there. We also talked about like power limiters, which he talked about as being internal hip rotation. Ultimately, remember, this show and the goal of this show is to ultimately build out a list of items and then help you develop a path to getting to the level of golf that you want to reach in your career. So, this one was awesome. We talked a little bit about the differences even within his Olympic ski teams of people and how they prepare and what the mental side of things ultimately looks like. We talk about meditation. We talk about visualization. Some of his highest performing players really did a lot of visualization. And it kind of seemed like the difference between the levels is the amount of details that people pay attention to. Obviously, there's genetic differences from within all of the various different levels, but, I thought that part was interesting. We talked about basic building blocks in terms of nutrition, supplements, creatine, making sure you hit your daily protein intake, electrolytes, all those sort of things, and those definitely play a very important role. Just a really good conversation. It was nice to sort of pivot into more of a strength training background. We talked about, the progression of fundamental strength into explosive strength and all those sort of things in this video. Very niche, but, if you're someone who is out there who is wanting to get into the fitness side of things or get inside the minds of what's happening in Olympic weight rooms, MLB weight rooms, this was a really good video. I gained a lot from it. Ultimately, at the end of the day, my biggest takeaway from this was the further back you feel you start, or quite frankly, at any level, the more details you need to pay attention to, so you might as well pay attention to all of them. And that's going to be a common theme. I have Jeff Levicchio coming up in the next episode, and that was definitely a big theme of his as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I certainly did. It was really cool to be able to sit down with Bret, especially with his extensive experience, and talk through it all. So let me know if you guys have any comments down below, and we'll see you next Monday.